Welcome everyone to the latest in the interview series on Back of the Net. My name's Jeff Hayward, and on today's show we've got a conversation with yet another midfield maestro. You might be thinking I'm talking about Neil Dawson. Neil, welcome to the show.
Hello there. I don't think I've been called a maestro before.
Well, I did wonder whether that was a phrase often.
I've a few times, never maestro.
Not to worry. And today we welcome someone who played in one of the most interesting spells for the club, a hard-working, very talented midfielder with a wand of a left foot and an eye for goal. His tough tackling, never say die attitude saw him play 193 games for the club. He captained us and he scored 24 times, put his heart on the line in some of our toughest seasons and some of our best and most memorable. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Danny Hollands. Welcome to the show, Dan. Or Danny, or Daniel. What can I call you?
Any of the above really works. So I've had Danny, Dan, Daniel. So I would say one thing I would say, similar to Neil, I'm not sure about a midfield maestro. I would say some people might have something to say about that, but I'll take it anyway.
I'm sure you will. Excellent. Well, look, let's begin at the beginning. Tell us about your journey into football. How did it all begin, and what are your earliest memories of playing and getting into the game?
Well, a lot of it I owe to my dad. He played himself. He played over 700 times for Hampton and Richmond. And I spent lots of weekends following him around the country, playing games. Well, not playing games, watching him play games. And it just led from there, really. So I always had a ball in my hand and just, kicking it around. And thankfully for me, it's paid off a little bit. You
went, obviously, famously, you captained Chelsea, I think, at youth and reserve level, which was a hell of an achievement. You must have had some really good players in that squad. Who did you play with in your Chelsea youth days?
There was many of them. I mean, the biggest ones, really, probably Colton Cole, Robert Booth. Lenny Pidgley obviously was involved with the famous lifting the Premier League title. Also, Warren Cummings, he was just a little bit before my time. I did play one or two with him, but a lot of the time I was watching him. But they're probably the names that would be most recognised to everyone.
And things must have been. I mean, they were really competitive, I bet, at Chelsea, even in those days, before they really went on to be the powerhouse that they are now. But you went from there to Torquay, didn't you? I mean, a club with even less facilities than us. So what was that like?
It was very, very strange. I mean, you're wrapped in cotton wool when you're at a team like Chelsea. I mean, when I actually signed at Chelsea, I remember Abramovich coming in. I signed, and then 3 weeks later he'd come in. So I didn't really understand what it meant at the time. But then obviously when I started training, and you have this superstar coming in, another one coming in, you kind of understood what it all was about. I had some great years there. But I think you get to a stage of your career where you think, right, I'm playing youth team football. I need to go and experience men's football. And for me, that was that time when I went to Torquay. The hardship for me is that Mourinho was adapting a 4-3-3 system. And so obviously myself, I was playing a free in midfield, and a lot of people were playing still a 4-4-2. So I was struggling to find a loan move. And thankfully for me, Torquay had a punt on me. They were struggling in the bottom of League Two. So I was just happy to go out and play games. But like you say, it's a bit of a culture shock, but a real good one for me, and a wake-up call. Obviously, you go from one end of the scale to someone doing everything for you. You're washing, cooking your breakfast, lunch. If you need boots, if you need anything, they're there for you. And then you're going to Torquay, which is miles away from anywhere. You're training in the middle of a racetrack. And you got next to nothing. But like I say, it was something I was very, very thankful for, and it put me in good stead for obviously what was to come throughout my career.
You came to us in 2006. I think it was Sean O'Driscoll, wasn't it, that signed you? I mean, how did the move come about? Who approached you?
When I was playing at Torquay, one of Sean's big scouting network, Mike Caldroy, he come and watched me a couple of times, and he made himself known to me that he was working for Bournemouth, and he liked me as a player, and he thought there was a possibility that maybe I could come to Bournemouth, and how would I feel about that? Which obviously for me, I'd gone from playing at Chelsea to then going out on loan, and didn't really know what was what. I was happy to try and earn a contract at Torquay, and then Bournemouth come up with an offer. Obviously, the league above. They were renowned for playing good football at the time. Drisk had a good reputation. So it was kind of one of the things that was a no-brainer for me. And obviously, I was down the road. I was playing at Chelsea, but I was a local boy. Well, in terms of obviously Bournemouth to Torquay, I was local. So it all fell into place really, really nicely. And it was something that I was, jumped at the chance to be part of.
I think when you joined, little did you know, but it was going to be one of the most turbulent 5-year periods in the club's history. I mean, the downs and the ups were massive in the period you were with the club, and it pretty much started straight away because Sean O'Driscoll, after a handful of games that you played, he suddenly moves to Doncaster. 5 weeks later, we've got Kevin Bond in charge. I mean, what did you think of that first season? I mean, it must have been quite an upheaval for you.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't take it personally. Obviously, I hadn't set the world alight, but for Driss to walk out after about, like you say, about 6 to 8 weeks, it was quite, because obviously I was a young kid. I didn't really know much about anything in the footballing world, so I'd come in, looking forward to playing, under Drisk, and the way that he wanted to play was obviously, in a good team shape. We got the ball down and played some nice football. To him then going, I didn't really know what to expect, but. Obviously Kevin Bond come in, and like you say, it just kind of, I don't want to speak badly of anyone, but it was completely different. It was just a different way of, the club was being run. The football was a lot different. So it was tough. It was really, really tough. And like you say, I don't think we'd started off great that year. So, when you're playing in a team that's doing quite well, everything just takes care of itself. But we were struggling a little bit. I think we had quite a young team, bar a few, so it was a tough time really for us straight away.
What did Kevin do when he first joined? So you said it was a different style. Was he looking to go a bit more direct, or how did he introduce himself to the players and set that out?
Yeah, well, obviously there's lots of things that was said. Obviously, why he got the job and bits and bobs. So all that beforehand, it was kind of put a bit of animosity around the club and what was what. But he come in, obviously with Driss, it was almost not total football, but we was probably as big a team as you could get at that level to play football. And then you get Kevin Bond come in, and it was a bit more direct. Obviously we had Fletch at the time, so we utilised him quite a bit in a different kind of way, really. So I think more so the experienced lads, it affected them rather than us. We were young lads, and when you're a youngster, you want to go and play games. And I think he flipped the team around quite a bit. There was never really much structure. You'd get a couple of games. If results weren't going well, you'd come out. So it made things tough. And like I say, there's things going on off the field as well, which didn't help. So it was really, really tough. But I don't think that was anything against Kevin. I just think everyone was so used to the way Drisk had done things, especially, like I say, the experienced lads, that it took them a lot of time to adapt under the new regime.
I mean, looking back on it, that first season, we had quite a squad. We had Darren Anderton, part of that squad, but we had young players like David McGoldrick, Ryan Bertrand played with us that season, Brett Pitman, Sam Vokes were all young players, as you said, but, set for brilliant careers. And then we had club stalwarts like Fletch, James Hayter, Stephen Purchase, Neil Young, Neil Moss, Eddie Howe was playing still. Stephen Claridge even joined us to play one game that season. I mean, it does seem too good a squad to be fighting relegation. What do you remember of that battle against the drop that season?
It's like you say, there was some really, really good players there. I mean, like I said to you, it's the names that you were saying, a lot of them were quite young at the time. So it was tough for them, obviously, from coming from bigger clubs to then coming to Bournemouth, which, like you say, was a bit of a scrap. It was tough for them. And the more experienced lads, like I say, I think it took them a lot of time to get under the new regime. Some of them, obviously, I don't think agreed with the way Bondi done things. But like I say, everyone's going to have their ways or their opinions of what was what. And all I remember about the first year is, worried about, our first year in the Football League, was I going to get relegated? And, you don't really want that on your CV straight away coming to the footballing world. But thankfully, that didn't happen. And like you say, looking back now, when you've just reeled off all them names, it was far too good really to be where it was. Yeah. But some of the time it's not, it's not what you have on paper. It's how things are put together on the pitch. And for whatever reason, it didn't really click. And it was very, very frustrating.
Darren Anderton was interesting because at times it almost looked unfair that he was playing at that level because he was a complete and utter different class. What could you tell in training? Was he like impossible to get near in training? Was he the same? Was it like amazing to play with him?
Yeah, I mean, I think even if you gave Daz a ball now and you said to him, look, put it on someone's chest 40, 50 yards, but I think he could do it. I don't think it's, I think he was obviously born with a gift, and, it's just something that some players have. And, when you're a fellow professional, you appreciate that. Some players, with all due respect, they play in the Premier League for years and years, and it's not down to their technical ability. It's more for, the physical attributes of the game. But with Darren, it was, you could say to him left or right foot. If you made a run, it was always going to come to you, if you know what I mean. You didn't have to worry about his quality because that's what he possessed. But then you say some of the other players, the younger players that were coming through as well, like, we had Lallana, Leon Best, McGoldrick, all them types of players, Bertrand, Jack Cork. I mean, there's lots of them within that period of Bournemouth who, we were lucky to have good quality. And the thing that probably attracted a lot of them to Bournemouth was it was renowned for the way they played, and they enjoyed playing that style of football. And that was probably, like I said to you earlier, one of the things that a lot of people struggled when it changed under not just Bondi, but Bondi at this specific time.
And the following season, you got more of a run of games. So fair to say you established yourself in the side in that midfield role. And in fact, you captained the team, didn't you, against Forest that season? Was that a big step to take as a young player? Yeah,
I say, for me, all throughout my career, I've always been quite vocal. Some people may say a little bit too much, but, it's something that I've always done naturally. And, when someone gives you the armband at any club, it's a big privilege. But the thing is then, for myself, when I am captain, you almost want to make sure you win the game. So it's like, it's all right when you're an older player, but when you're a younger player and you're having to tell the older players what to do because, you feel that responsibility, it can be quite tough. And I remember looking around the change room because it was my first kind of, taste of being a captain and, thinking, okay, I've done it with players my own age, but now I'm having to try and tell some of the more experienced lads, what to do or not bark orders, but, that sort of thing. And I just remember thinking, I hope I do it the right way or they don't take offence to it. But like I said, it's a big privilege for me, like I say, because of my age more so than anything.
How much did the point deduction deflate the squad? I always wonder with footballers do you just go out and play the game on grass or when things like that happen, does it really affect you off the pitch as well?
I think it did. I mean, more so because, it wasn't down to what we were doing, if that makes sense. You felt like, every footballer will tell you every Monday you look at the table, you look where you are. And for us, when you're obviously on minus points, it was mentally really, really tough. I think when we had the points deduction, one, obviously, it affected us getting relegated. And then this next season, we really, really struggled to get even on 0 points. So, it affected us both years, really. But like I say, to go down literally just because of that reason, it was a real kick in the teeth because now, like I say, as a professional, you want to get promotions. You certainly don't want to get relegations, and you have it on your CV. And it was really not down to anything that us as a group of players done. But like I say, it's something that happened. And I think if you speak to anyone within that squad, because we were quite a young squad at the time, it really kind of it makes you man up and sort of understand how rough and hard this journey can be as a footballer.
Well, there was a lot of turmoil going on in the boardroom, with the administration and everything else that season. And you showed a lot of leadership. You were representing the players. I mean, it must have been really tough when nobody was getting paid in some of those games. I mean, what was that like?
If I said it was easy, I'd be lying. I'd say it is tough. Like I say, especially then it flips on the younger lads because when you're coming into football and you're a young lad, it's all right for the old lads who have had years of money coming in and being able to put money by. But when you're a young lad, which a lot of us were, and you're relying on your month-to-month pay to pay your bills and get by and stuff, it's tough. And then you're obviously thinking, are we going to have a job because is the club going to go? Because there was times, where we actually thought, we're in real trouble where we don't know if we're going to have a club. But one thing that got us all through is that how tight-knit the group was. We were going out, we were spending lots and lots of time together. Some training grounds and teams you play in the unity isn't there, and you're trained, you'll go home, and it's seen as a job. Whereas with us, I think, we were more than just a squad of players. We were friends, and I think, if you speak to a lot of that team, we all still speak to each other. I mean, we got to obviously see everyone at the minus 17 points, so we know that we're done with that, which was lovely. But like I say, it was tough times, and I think the only thing that really got us by was how close a bond we had, and like I say, it ended up quite well for the club when you look where they are now.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you talk about a tight-knit bunch. One of the players that joined that year was Jason Pearce, and he always looked to us fans as like a proper leader, both on and off the pitch. I mean, he's still going now, isn't he, at Charlton, your old club?
Yeah.
Was it how pivotal was he?
He was very, very good, because again, he come in as a young kid at Portsmouth, but he didn't actually play as a young kid, if that makes sense. He come in and he was like an experienced centre half in a young kid's body. It was strange, he loved to tackle, he loved the physical side of the game, and he was vocal. He was pivotal, really. He was something that we didn't really have. I mean, he complimented Sean Cooper well, or Ryan Gale, whoever he was playing alongside. They had a good relationship, and for me, he was a blessing in disguise to come through the door, because all them years he played for Bournemouth, he done really, really well, and again, it was another leader to add to the group. So the more that we could have that type of player or person around the group really, really helped, because like I say, we were a young bunch, and there wasn't that many players that would speak out, but he was certainly one of them, and it helped at the time for sure.
That season, it was a soul-destroying one for us as fans, because we could see the players giving it their all on the pitch. You had a good run, the minus 10, everything off the pitch was against us, and it all came down to Carlisle and that long trip up there. What's your memory of that? I bet you wish you'd flown for a start, because it must have been a hell of a journey back.
Yeah, but as I say, like I said, those are the types of things that, when you kind of go to big clubs, you understand, you get to fly, you get to do this and do that. But, at the time, we just knew we'd just get on with it, really. I remember it as clear as day. I mean, it was one of them things that we come in the change room afterwards and you could hear a pin drop. Like, the manager didn't know what to say. No one wanted to say nothing. It was just like everyone knew they'd given everything they had. But just, for whatever reason, it just wasn't enough. Like I said, I think did we get a draw that day? I think we got a draw. Did we get a draw?
I think we had Marvin Dolly on the podcast saying that he missed a sitter or something and never forgave himself. I don't know if you remember that.
We're just blaming Marv for that then. So yeah, no, it's like I say. It's I remember. I think at one stage of the game, I think it was Doncaster. I think Doncaster or someone had a game who we thought they're going to win that, definitely, hands down, they win that, and that'll be fine for them. And I think at half time they were winning, and then with about 70 minutes in, I think. I can't remember who it was now, but at the time they were losing, so I was thinking, oh no! So everything was going against us, and I just remember, I think it might have been that Marvin chance, the ball flashing across the face of the goal, and someone just was stretching for it, and they couldn't quite get there. But just when you look back at little things where it just wasn't meant to be, unfortunately. But like I say, I don't think the players could give it any more that year. We gave everything we had. By the end of it, I think everyone was mentally drained, and just what was meant to be was meant to be. It happened for a reason, and. I think we're just thankful that we all had jobs and the club was still going, really.
Yeah. But I mean, the next season was a really fascinating season. I mean, we can say that now that we're not in the middle of it. It didn't always feel like it at the time. It started off, so if we just, there's a few events that'd be really interesting to get your views on. So it started off, obviously, with Bondi getting the boot, and in came Jimmy Quinn. So were you surprised that when Kevin Bond went, and how did Jimmy Quinn introduce himself?
With obviously Kevin Bond, I think it was, like I said to you, the whole time when Bondy was there. I think it's always tough when you come into a club and you're trying to, Driss done very, very well for Bournemouth, and I think people didn't want him to go. He obviously decided to move on, and then the manager following that type of manager, it's really, really tough for them, because he's got such a good reputation. And you're almost in a lose-lose unless, you go and get promotion, or you do very, very well in a short space of time. So I think Bondy was always up against it. And then obviously when you get relegated, we didn't start great. I think the writing's always on the wall, So with Bondy, that was that. And then Jimmy coming, and obviously Jason Tyndall had been working with him at Cambridge, I think it was, just before. So a few of the lads had obviously spoken to Jason, found out a little bit about him, knew what we were going to kind of get. But, you know, he was very, very upbeat and positive when he came in, and he kind of praised the squad and said, look, this is, you know, we've got far too much to be where we are in the league, and, you know, we'll take it game by game. Obviously, because when you're starting on minus points, you're looking at the league, you're thinking, oh my God, it's just getting further and further away, because we hadn't started great either. So, you know, all I remember is getting to Christmas that year and thinking, we're just on about, I think it was on about 0 points or 3, but we hadn't had many points on the board at all. And I thought, my God, you know, we're definitely in with a shout here if we don't buck our ideas up of being in the conference. So, you know, it was tough, but then obviously Jimmy come in, and again, you're taking time to adapt and get into the way that he wanted things done. He was very, very, I don't know, Bondi was quite relaxed, and you know, you could almost feel he's quite approachable, and if you didn't agree with something, you could speak to him. Even as a young lad, I felt like I'd go and speak to him. But then with Jimmy Quinn, obviously, you know, he was very, very different, like almost like the polar opposite. It was, things are going to be done this way, and I want this done then, and he kind of gave you the instructions. If you didn't abide by them, then he'd let you know. So it was kind of, again, that whole different way of learning how things had to be done and understand Jimmy. So, you know, and I always remember as well, it didn't start great as well, I don't think, under his reign. So it was, you know, again, we had, usually when a new manager comes in, you know, you're upbeat, you think, okay, everything's going to change for the better. And when you start losing some games again, you're thinking, oh my God, here we go again. So, yeah, it's a little bit of a very, very frustrating time.
From a fan's perspective, I mean, we weren't that impressed. It's difficult, I think, from one manager coming in with a totally different philosophy and trying with the same group of players to get them to change. But honestly, some of the football was dire. Neil reminded me earlier that the Burton game was probably one of the worst games that he'd ever seen in his life as a Bournemouth fan.
The 2-0, and having Jimmy Quinn on the bench as well, having Darren Anderton on the bench as well, not playing, was just madness.
But you know, do you think given time he would have worked out, or do you think that the board were right to call it a day with him?
I don't, like you say, I think if you put everything in place, I don't think it would have worked out, really. Like I said, I don't think as a manager, you know, looking back at it now, I think if you ask majority of the squad at the time, is he the man to get us out of this and to move us forward, I think they all would have said no. But that's nothing against him. That's just where we was at, what the players we had and the way he wanted to do things. Because like you say, you can be a good manager, but you don't have the right personnel to implement what you're actually trying to do. And I think it was a case of that, like you say, like Darren being on the bench. I don't think he understood, you know, how to get the best out of Darren. I think he almost was threatened by him. You know, it was, you know, he's a big character. It must be difficult as a manager coming from the lower level to come in, and then you're managing a former England international and you put him on the bench. You know, so it's not a great start, because anyone who knows anything about football, you know, you can't. If you understood Darren, you understand you don't lose your quality. You may lose your legs a little bit, but you don't lose the quality. At the time for us, you know, having youngsters around and things not going great, I think you almost needed to kind of look to people like that rather than kind of put them on the back burner and, you know, not have them within the team, because I think it would have been a help rather than a hindrance to him.
There was a game, I'm not sure if it was that season or whether it was the season before. There was a game against Accrington Stanley where things went badly wrong. I think you ended up having a discussion with the fans after the game. Maybe in a way that helped galvanise team spirit. What do you remember about that? What was said?
As I say, it was under Jimmy. It was definitely because they didn't know who it actually was. I think the press had put it in the thingy, and he had the paper clip, and he said, "Who was this?" And you know, I had to put my hand up. But it wasn't a case, as I say, like for me, the thing that I still struggle with is if fans go, "Oh, you're not trying," and all this. I had it last year with a couple of fans as well at services, but not as in that. But I'm a person that if you have something to say to me, I prefer you to come and say it to me. And all I was simply saying to him is saying, you know, it's not a case of lads not trying. You know, that's not right. And then it got to a case that I was offering to speak, like having it out of him outside. And I was like, no. I said, look, if you want to have a conversation, I said, feel free to approach me and kind of. It was literally as black and white as that. But like I said, I think because of the time and the way that things were going for the club, everyone was a bit irate and, you know, frustrated. And it just, like I say, it wasn't working on the pitch. even like games, I think games like sort of a couple of games we'd gone ahead and been pulled back and lost and things. So it was really, really frustrating. I understand the fans were frustrated. We were frustrated as players, because we knew we were better than what we were producing on the pitch, and also the squad we had, we knew we were better than. When you're coming up against players, you're kind of honest with yourself. You're saying, okay, well they're decent. You can see why we've lost there. But I think it was more of a case that, like I said, the frustration was getting the better of us, and we were doing silly things, and it just all kind of boiled over. And like I say, it was another frustrating time. So the first kind of couple of years at Bournemouth were frustrating times for us, really.
And that year, then you joined the club in 2006 when a certain Eddie Howe was a player in the squad, and then suddenly he comes in as a manager from nowhere to take over. And there was a real sense of a last throw of the dice. We've got no money. Give it to somebody within the club, and Eddie was the right man at the right time, or the only man at the right time. What did it feel like as players at that point?
It was crazy. I mean, when I look back at it now, I mean, obviously, my first year there, I remember him playing left back and me playing left midfield, and it's like must have been the slowest left-hand side in Bournemouth. Don't tell Ed that, but for him then to be that, and then obviously for me to then be playing under him, 18 months later or 12 months later, it was kind of crazy, because all I remember with Eddie is like, obviously when I joined, he was having problems with his knee. He was managing them, and he was such a good pro. I mean, as a player, he was, you couldn't say a bad word about him. He was always professional, he trained right, done everything right. So then for him to come in as manager, I think people already knew what they would be getting with him. So it wasn't a case of, he was approachable, but it was also stern with what he was telling you. As soon as he come in, the lads just had the utmost respect for him, because it was almost like. Training was good. But he would pick up on the little things. For someone who was so young. I mean, for me now, I think he was 31 at the time. I think, or 30 at the time. For someone who came in and done that, I think it's incredible, because he didn't really have much coaching experience, but he took to it so well. And it was like, for what he'd done at that age, I can't really say enough about him, really.
One of the first things he did was persuade Crawley to let Steve Fletcher come back, wasn't it? What was the impact of Fletch arriving back?
It was massive. I mean, I don't think it was just on the pitch; it was off the pitch as well. And I think Eddie knew that, because Fletch, every Bournemouth fan knows what kind of character Fletch is. It's just his whole aura and his character. He at the time, like I say, we had young players. So we needed something, a little bit more leadership, or just even in the dressing room, around the dressing room. He's got good banter. He's the whole package of him. It was the right thing at the right time to do. It was a really, really good move from the gaffer. But I don't think anyone see it coming. At the time, it kind of come so quick, and I think it was because Warren Cummings come in, and he was very close with Fletch, and he said, "I think Fletch is coming back," and no one kind of see it coming, but it happened all so quick. And speaking to Fletch, as soon as that was the case, he wanted to come back, and it was the final piece of the puzzle, really, because I remember we were, no disrespect to any of the lads, but I think we were a bit lightweight up top, and maybe from defensive set pieces, which that's Fletcher's bread and butter. So for him to come in, he came in. I think he might have trained on the Thursday. I think it was Thursday, Friday, started on the Saturday, and I think we won on that Saturday. So I think it, or did we draw? I can't really remember, but it was straight away. He hit the ground running. And I think things just started going, step by step, just getting better, and the performances were better. I think people enjoyed the football more under Eddie. I just think everything was kind of getting into place, and points were getting on the board. So everyone was kind of at a lift.
Second game in, didn't you get a red card, Danny? Eddie's management, as I recall.
I think I had one red card at Bournemouth. I think it might have been the second yellow. Might have been for celebrating with the fans. I think a cup game. I think I'd scored, and I remember going towards the fans. I thought, "Oh no, I'm on a yellow," and I tried to come back, and the lads were pushed in. I was like, "Oh no!" So I'd gone from looking like, "Oh yeah, absolute hero," because I think he's an extra time winner, to then like walking off the pitch, having a red card. Well, everyone was thought, "What a donut!" So my head down. I thought, "Oh, just get me off this pitch."
Yeah.
playing in those last couple of games, particularly the Grimsby game, were the players aware of the absolute strategic importance of those games for the history of the club at the time you were playing in them, or did you just go out and play them? Because had we lost either of those, we could well have gone out of business forever.
Yeah, very, very true. I don't think that, like I say, within that group, once Eddie come in, I think the confidence levels just started rising. And I think that we were going into games, we were fitter than teams. You know, we had the confidence because Eddie was installing that in us. And I just think that, you know, we were steamrolling teams and we just, you know, we knew we were, it sounds a bit arrogant, but we almost knew we were better than teams. So, you know, you're almost like chomping at the bit for the next game to come. Because I remember going in, was it Chester away? And I think, you know, I just remember it was just almost like attack versus defence. We were just, you know, every time they got the ball back, we were just there. We were just winning the ball back and, you know, next attack and next attack. So I think it was like almost like one, like I say, we were very, very confident. We felt fit. And also just we were enjoying playing with each other. Like I say, it's such a good group of players to play. From what we had, with no disrespect to the other two managers, the football we were playing there, it wasn't as enjoyable. Then you've got Eddie that come in and he kind of almost brought that drift factor back in and the way we were trying to play football. And it just, you know, it was enjoyable to play in. And amongst obviously being a real tight-knit bunch of lads, it was, you know, everything was such a joy to be involved with, really. I know it don't seem that because we weren't playing the Premier League or anything like that, but at the time, it was really, really enjoyable to be playing, one, with that group of players, and two, you know, things were looking up and we were getting the results that we needed.
And that following season, I mean, the platform was there with the momentum we had to go and get promotion, which we did. I mean, what was that like playing in that League Two midfield with you, Anton Robinson, Marvin Bartley? I mean, you all went on to play in the Championship, so it must have been some midfield to be a part of.
Yeah, no, it was brilliant. Like I say, that my whole 5 years I've really, really enjoyed it. You know, but that period, obviously, you know, it felt like, you know, because we'd had so much doom and gloom, you know, we kept the tight knit together, and we just kind of, I think we started off with a 4-0 win that victory that season away at Bury. It might have been
Bury, well, yeah.
You just knew that, like, you know, it just started off in that way, and I think Bury were tipped to do quite well. And we'd gone there and beaten 4-0, and it was like, okay, this is a good start. It just kind of just kept, you know, spiraling into more and more good results and good performances. And it just, you know, from day one, really, I think the confidence was there that, you know, we could do something this year. And I don't think, with all due respect, a lot of the squad, myself included, we had never really achieved nothing because we had all, you know, come from academies, or like the last few years at Bournemouth, it was all, like I say, more down the bottom end of the table rather than the top. It was just, like I say, it's just really, really good thing to be involved with.
It was a small squad as well, which I think helped because it was the same players pretty much playing week in, week out, wasn't it? What do you remember about the Burton game? And presumably there was a few drinks afterwards. And we always ask everyone this: who was the best night out? Who was the best player for a night out?
I don't know. There's a few, to be fair. I mean, I probably would say Warren Cummings was always a good value on a night out. Fletcher was good. To be fair, I mean, it was a real good bunch of lads to be involved with. We had, you know, some real good times. Obviously, not a lot of it's been able to say on camera, but it's So between the lads, you know, there's lots and lots of stories. That's another thing. You know, some of the time you don't get a lot of characters, but I think within that period, you know, because the lads are obviously a couple of years older, they kind of started to you know, come out their shells a bit and really show their true colours, and it was great to be part of. And like I say, some of them are friends for life, really. And so I spoke to Marvin yesterday, funny enough, which you know, it's still really good because it's gone so quick. I mean, now you're looking back, and I'm 35 now. It just goes really quick, and to still be in contact with some of the lads is fantastic. And you know, it's good to see they all went on and done so well.
Did he have a Scottish accent, Marvin, when you spoke to him?
I bet he did.
Yeah, so it depends who he talks to, I think. You know, it's a lot of press work and things. So I think when he talks to the press, he probably has a little twang. You know what I mean? So, but he's like I say, he's done very well, Mark. You know, he's another one that got a move with Eddie, didn't he? And done very well. It's nice to see. Like I say, a lot of the lads went on and played higher because I think it was deserved, especially after, you know, that 2 year period. You know, when we got promoted and nearly done the same in the playoffs.
So the League One season that followed, I mean, I think that was some of your best football was played that season. I don't know what your memories are of it, but it was again another terrific season. How did that feel for you as a player being part of that team?
Yeah, it was fantastic. You know, like you say, I don't think at the time you realise how or what other people see of you as a squad or as a team, because more so now when you go to other places and you've played at other teams, you know, when they say, "Oh yeah, that Bournemouth team that you played in, you know, plays really, really good football," and you know, as much as, funny enough, on one of our group chats, someone put a game on. I think it's a Chesterfield game from a few years ago, or many years ago. But you know, you watch it back and you think, actually, we did play some really, really good football then. So I think it's more so now you understand what Eddie and what we actually done as a squad. Like I say, especially, you know, as well with the minus 17 points, you look at it and you think, you know, it was a real big achievement. But at the time, you're just ticking off the games and thinking, can we get out of this? You know, so it was a great thing to be involved with, and it was nice to obviously, you know, get a promotion and then prove to people that we could compete at the next level as well. I think it gave us confidence as well, because we didn't have no household names or big names for that level. No one really gave us a chance, but we showed that we could compete, and we done it. You know, we went to some big places, got some big results, and it just unfortunately come down to 5 penalty kicks that didn't really go our way.
Early on in that season, Brett Pitman obviously left. So a couple of questions for you, really, that came out of that. First one, were you worried as a squad because he scored 26 goals the season before? And then the second question, one of the players that kind of came in to take his place eventually was Danny Ings. He was always a player that struck me as he looked like a good player, but I was always surprised that he went on to become what he did. Could you see that in training? So 2 questions, really. One, were you worried about Brett? And could you see the potential with Danny Ings straight away?
I think the thing with Brett, I mean, if you speak to anyone who's played with him, I think you'll struggle to find a better finisher. You know, even his finishing ability was there to be seen. You know, anywhere within 30 yards, he's going to hit the target. He's going to, you know, work the keeper. And it wasn't just that, but I mean, that's one of probably the biggest aspect of his game. So it's not surprising that he scored 26 goals a year before. And then obviously when you take that out of your team, you're thinking, yeah, you are a bit worried, because he wasn't a place that had lots of money and we go and spend money on bringing in another face. You're thinking, okay, we could be in trouble here, especially when you just jumped up to the next level. But we was very lucky, because that kind of period, we had him, we had Josh McCoy, we had Sam Vokes and Danny Ings, who kind of, you know, had their turn of really stepping up and doing a good job for us. But like you say, yeah, we was worried at the time to lose Brett. And then the second question, obviously, with Danny Ings, it was, I remember that season, I think he was a third year, I think, and he had a few injury problems. And, you know, I remember Joe Roach saying, oh, he's got loads of ability, but I think he was struggling with injuries and they wasn't sure whether they were going to take him or not. So it was kind of like, okay. And then obviously with what happened with Brett and a few others moving on, we was like, you're going to have to give him his chance. And to be fair, he took it with both hands and he done very well. But within that, in training, when you actually train with him, you know, he could do things that was above the level, you know, with his control. And, you know, he was very good with the ball at his feet. You know, I think for when I used to watch him as a youngster, I was like thinking, will he play on the wing? Will he? You know, he's quick. He was jinky, and he don't show it so much now. But he's more of a runner in behind. But I think at the time, you know, dribbling the ball at his feet is very good. And you know, it's nice to see again him going on and doing well, because you know, for him it could have been so different if Bournemouth hadn't taken him or given him a chance. You know, he might not have ever, you know, made the grade, because you know some of these youngsters, once they get a rejection, they just don't want to fancy it anymore.
So it was kind of inevitable that Eddie would leave that season. I mean, the players must have heard all the rumours that were going around and all the talk around him as well. What did it feel like when he left, and how destabilising was it?
Yeah, obviously, you know, but I think the thing is because I remember, I think it was Palace that he was linked with heavily. Kind of midway, maybe just after the midpoint of that season, and yeah, we got called in for a meeting, and yeah, Eddie wanted to speak to us, and the rumours are, I've never really asked him this, but apparently he was going to go, but then on the way down the stairs he changed his mind, he stayed. So which we all knew that eventually he would move on, because he was doing such a good job. We obviously, you know, he had 3 or 4 clubs that he was linked with. then he had the Crystal Palace thing, which didn't happen for whatever reason. And then, obviously with the Burnley thing, I just think that, it's probably the right time for him to go. He'd done so much for the club. And I don't think with what was happening with a group of players he had, which were obviously attracting interest from other clubs as well. And with all due respect, there were bigger clubs at the time than Bournemouth. Everyone wants to play as high as they can. I think he probably put all that into one basket and thought it's probably my time to move on and give something else a go. And no one can really blame him because he'd done such a good thing for Bournemouth. And from where it was to where he'd left it, they're in such a healthy position.
So once again, the club looked within itself and plucked Lee Bradbury because at the time, as fans, we were wondering if it was going to be Fletch or would it be Lee Bradbury or who would they go for? And they went for Lee Bradbury. Were you surprised at that as a group of players? And also, did he just try and keep doing what Eddie had done? Because it's hard when you step up to follow Eddie, isn't it? Did he keep trying to do it, or did he try and put his own stamp on it?
Again, I think it's tough, because Bradders was obviously following Eddie, which, a bit like Bondi done the same with Driss. When you come in and you're going to take over from a manager that's done so well for the club, it's a real tough ask to try and obviously get the same success that they've had. For me, obviously, yes, I think at the time Bradders was the right decision. Like people would have said about Fletch and Bradders, but at the time Bradders was, doing coaching away from the club, and he had a little bit more experience than Fletch within that industry. But to putting the two together, was probably quite a good idea at the end. But it certainly was the right decision. And no, I don't think he wanted to do what Eddie'd done. I think if you spoke to Eddie and Bradders about their philosophy and the way they wanted to do things and approach things, I think they were similar in that respect. But I don't think he tried to do what Eddie was doing, because I think if you go down that route, it's just asking for trouble. He tried to put his own spin on things, and I think we was the same because that's what we were used to doing. But I think their philosophies were similar, so that's why kind of it maybe looked the same on the eye rather than Bradders trying to be like Eddie.
What happened in the run-in in that season? Because we were well set to get promotion, but sort of stuttered into the playoffs. Do you think the players just got a bit tired, lost a bit of the edge? Because the squad again was really good, and we probably slightly underperformed in those last 10 or so games.
Yeah, no, I remember being called in, all of us, for a meeting, and I think we were stuttering a little bit, and I think from where we was to where we was actually that day in the table, I think there was a little bit of panic about us not getting promoted, and would we make the playoffs? So I think that the club was getting a bit frustrated. We was in new territory because a lot of us hadn't, probably been that high up in League One, but we actually we had a meeting, and once we'd had things out, and I think there's a few things that were said, we kind of got back to winning ways, and we got into the playoffs. But like you say, it was a bit frustrating because we probably should have got automatic promotion. But like I say, I think maybe it was a little bit of confidence. When you start losing games and there's other teams, bigger teams within that league that were kind of like used to handling that pressure, we probably didn't handle it quite as well as them. And then you'd say the confidence comes into things, and then you have the board and people saying, obviously financially it's a massive thing for them to say, oh, come on, we need to get over the line. Why aren't you winning this? Why aren't you doing that? It was quite tough for us as a group. But like I say, we showed good character to get into the playoffs in the end, because I remember there was a time where thinking, oh, we're going to chuck this away, and it had been really, really frustrating.
Yeah. The first game was good against Huddersfield, but the second game was epic. It was a proper emotional roller coaster because the game itself was amazing, and then obviously the result and the trip home for us was awful. So if it was bad enough for us as fans, it must have been hell for you.
Yeah, I think the horrible thing for us, I think over the two legs, I felt we had done enough to win the game. Even like the extra time at Huddersfield, I think we had a few chances where we felt like we should have taken them, and you look back on all them little things. But in hindsight, some people would have said as a club we probably overachieved. So you have to be proud of what we actually achieved. Yeah. But it was, on the other hand, just sitting there, you're thinking, what if? Because if we would have got into the Championship, with that group of players, I think we would have competed quite nicely. But it it was really, really hard to take, really, really frustrating. But like I say, it's just something that one of the things that just happens. You have to dust yourself down and go again the following season. But like I said, I think within that squad, people talk and you're talking to other players, and there was interest in other players. So you're thinking, a 5 or 6 going to leave if we don't go up. I think if we would have, the shameful thing is that if we would have gone up, I think a lot of the lads would, I think everyone probably would have stayed. But obviously, as a professional, you want to play as high as you can and test yourself. And it just kind of fell to pieces a little bit. And I felt for Bradders a bit because he'd come in and we'd just missed out on the playoffs, and I think quite a few lads had moved on, and it made it really, really tough for him. He had a whole, it was his first managerial job, and he had to rebuild the whole squad. So it was kind of a lose-lose for him, really. But like I say, it's one of them things.
One quick thing about that game that's always intrigued me: what was the penalty taking strategy?
I think it was like most things. It was kind of like, first of all, who fancies a penalty? Because if you fancy a penalty, it means you're confident. And a lot of time, penalties are just about confidence. If you said to most professionals, hit the ball from 12 yards and say goal, it's no problem. But when you're in that situation, then some people kind of second guess themselves or don't feel as confident. So I think it was just a case of, if you're confident, take one. If you don't, then if you have to take one, you take one, kind of thing. For me, I've always been one of them people that any penalty competition, I just step well away because I'm just not. That's just not for me. I say, unfortunately, I say, but it's it's just one of them things because all through training and when you practice penalties, it goes so well, and then for it to kind of really didn't go well for us, it was frustrating. But like I said, it's just. You always have that regret of thinking, what if we would have got in there? It would have been nice to see how we've actually got on in the Championship. Because I think if we would have got to the final, I think we would have beaten Peterborough, personally.
Yeah.
A lot of the players went on to play in the Championship, either with Bournemouth or with other clubs anyway. So I think, that probably, you're right, it sums up how good that squad was. So next up for you was Charlton. How did the move come about? Did you have other clubs looking at you, or was it always Charlton?
For me, I mean, the big thing was that Charlton were, from the January, they were on to me about maybe signing a pre-contract, and obviously Charlton were nowhere near the playoffs, and Bournemouth were. But when you're weighing everything up, and they're a massive club, and the manager said, next year we're really going to have a go and try and get promotion. So, I was trying to concentrate on being at Bournemouth and trying to get promoted with them. And I think the other thing with that is it wasn't just myself. We had a lot of interest from other clubs for all the players, really. And I think, that kind of maybe had a part to play with us having a little wobble. What it's like. It's, if someone's trying to tout you and thinking, do you want to move here or do this? It can obviously, be in your mind. But for me, that from the January, they were trying to get me to sign a pre-contract because I said, look, I'm doing well with Bournemouth. I didn't want to, think about anything else. I never wanted to leave Bournemouth. As I say, my main concern was trying to get to the Championship with Bournemouth. But personally, obviously, I wanted to play in the Championship. So I said, look, if I get promoted with Bournemouth, I'm 100% staying with Bournemouth. I want to be a Bournemouth player. But then, obviously, you lose on penalties, and you go out and you're in League One, and Charlton. To be fair to them, the deal that they offered me was quite a good deal, and it sounds a bit shallow when it comes down to money or whatever. But I was at the time personally, I was having triplets, and with all due respect, Bournemouth weren't the best players, and I was getting to a stage in my career where I had to try and put myself first. It wasn't still, even with the money aside, and what it was still a massive decision for me because, like I said, I'd really, really grown fond of all the players I was playing with, and I was the first one to go and sign somewhere else. It was a real hard decision for me to make, and one that I had to make really, really quick because they wanted it sort of signed, sealed, and delivered really, really early. Part of the off season, and just as I'd just finished the playoffs. So it was one of the things that happened. Thankfully for me, on paper now, when I look back at it, I can say it worked out for the right reasons personally. But still to this day, it was a real tough decision to leave Bournemouth.
And at Charlton, did you get to play with a certain Yann Kermorgant, and did you ever win a header in training against him?
I think Yann could beat me in the air wearing flip flops. He was one of them players that he's just, I say, I still speak to Yann now. When I was at Charlton, he was one of my good friends. He's a real nice bloke. At the time when they were looking at signing Yann, I said, yeah, you have to sign him. I said, he's again, for me, if people say to me in my career, who's the best finishers you play with, I'd say Brett and Yann, because they're the two that really know where the back of the net is. But again, Yann brings more to your team than just being a striker. For someone who's not that big, he's very, very, very good in the air. He's strong. He's really, he should have been a regular in the Premier League or at a top level somewhere. He done well in the end. I know he obviously had things off the field that happened with him personally, but like I say, it was a pleasure to play with him for that year, because that year he was phenomenal. Some games he'd win for us on his own. All different types of goals. I think he didn't get Player of the Year that year, but he come very, very close. And to see him at Bournemouth, to get him there, be part of helping him make his mind up to it, and seeing him do well was nice for me personally as well.
Yeah, well, he'll always be one of my favourite players. He was just a joy to watch. He was like a slightly lower league Cantona, I always thought. He had this sort of same approach to the game and skills. He was always pleasurable to watch. Portsmouth, great club, isn't it? If someone gets Portsmouth right again, they'll fly. I was trying to remember who signed you and who let you go. How did that all come about? What was your times at Portsmouth like?
I'm very, very good. I say I was. Obviously, they were League Two. Again, I was in the Championship with Charlton, and obviously the kids growing up and bits and bobs. So I was, looking to get back home, but it was, again, a tough decision for me, because you go from the Championship down to League Two, and where they were in the league, it was tough. And I remember getting a phone call, and Richie Barker was the manager at the time. I went out to train. And I come back in, and Richie Barker had been sacked. And I thought, I knew I wasn't the best. But it wasn't that bad, was it? So, and then they said, you're going to have to wait and see if Andy Orford, who took over, still wants to sign you. So I thought, great. So, to be fair, Orf said, yeah, I would still want him to come down and sign. So I remember driving back home, really, really pleased to be back on the South Coast. And like you say, I'd watched a few games there, because a lot of my close friends to where I live away from football, Portsmouth fans, so I've watched him. I know what the atmosphere is. I was thinking, I really want a bit of that. So, I had, I think it was 8 games. I had the end part of that season, so they were struggling. And for me, it was just one of them, times in your career that everything just goes for you. I mean, I scored a hat trick. I got 7 or 8 goals, I think, in like 9 or 10 games. So, I went there. It went well, and they stayed up. And then obviously they wanted to sign me permanently, which everything was the best outcome for me. So I was really, really pleased. And I had 2 years there. Again, that year, Orf's started. We had a big budget for that level, and it just didn't kind of work for him. So he was in there for a little while, got the sack, which is a shame, because not just him being my manager, he was a real nice bloke. And some managers you really want it to work out for different reasons, and he was one of them. And it kind of if it would have gone well for him, I could have seen him in there for years, but unfortunately it didn't. And now, unfortunately, he hasn't had another sniff with anyone at the moment. So it's a bit shameful for him.
So we've got a couple of questions from fans, Danny. One from Rob Lee: why did you go through so many squad numbers? And another from Tom Jordan: who was the best centre midfielder that you partnered with in your career?
For me, the numbers, let's say, since I've obviously had my daughters, they were born on September the 19th, so I would always stick with that now. Obviously, beforehand, I don't know why I went through many numbers. It's just I never really had a number that I wanted to stick to. I mean, I had 14, I had 12, I think I had 22. I've had lots and lots of numbers. Yeah, I don't know why that is. It's just probably what's there in front of me. I just have to make a decision, and for different reasons I've chosen, really, but there's no real number apart from now, when my daughters have come along, that I'm going to stick with 19 for however many more years I play, which, who knows how many years that are. And centre midfielder that I've played, did you say with or against?
With. Who's the best one you played with? Actually, is the best one you played against as well. Go on, give us both.
The best one I've played with, I'd probably have to say Daz. I mean, Daz is still a close friend, so if I don't say him, he'll probably get on to me. But, with all due respect, he probably is. I mean, him, just purely, like I said to you earlier, his ability and things that he could do, things that he'd expect me to do that I couldn't do, was funny as well, because in training you say, just hit the ball there or just do this. And I'd be like, I can't do that, Daz. He's like this. And it just make it look so easy, and I feel about this big. So you know, probably Daz, was the best one I played with. And against would be Moussa Dembele. When I was at Charlton, we played Fulham in the FA Cup. And he's just one of them players that he was so strong. You know, you think, I can nick the ball there, and you just get nowhere near it. You just get his body across you. You know, just very, very good. I mean, it's quite refreshing because obviously, you know, he's had a very, very good career. And you watch him match the other day, and he's taking the mick out of someone. I'm thinking, oh, well, I wasn't actually that bad then. Do you know? So, yeah.
Your YouTube volley for Eastleigh is something else. We were wondering what you thought your best goal was for us. One of our fans, Jamie Allen, wondered if it was the one against Boston in the Cup. Yeah,
so I would say it probably is that one. And it's probably the most, the goal that I've been most recognised for from Bournemouth fans would be that one. I mean, I scored a few. I mean, I scored quite a few for Bournemouth, but if I was to, I can't really remember, apart from maybe I got 2 against Notts County, but that's probably the 2 for Bournemouth, them 2, but purely for the whole occasion with that. But solely for a goal would probably be that one for Boston. All I remember is it, you know, we were breaking from a corner and it was 4 against 3, and I remember the keeper being miles off his line. And I was thinking, I'm going to go for this, but I thought if I get it wrong, because I was a young kid at the time, I thought if I get it wrong, the lads are going to absolutely hammer me here. But thankfully for me, it went in, and it was, you know, it was nice because obviously, you know, it's from quite a distance.
I was always wondering, Danny, whether Frank Lampard based his game on you a little bit. You know, the burst into the box late to come in and slot it in. What do you think?
Mine was more like a plod. You know, it was more like a plod. You know, but for me, that one, I mean, I get a lot of people going, I didn't know you had that in your lock. I was like, well, I didn't myself either. Because you know, I've scored some okay goals, but you know, for me, for that. And the occasion, the way it's just kind of come out of the air. It's you know, as soon as it left my foot, you know, you can just, as a footballer, when you hit something like that, it just felt so sweet. And thankfully, it went in the top corner. And yeah, I remember because I'm in a group chat with Sean Cooper, Warren Cummings, Daz, and they're all kind of like, I've just seen you go 1-0 up. Like, this is obviously once after the game, and it's like, I think it might be Dan who's just scored that, and they're all in astonishment because they're like, they've never seen me do anything like that. So you know. It shows what faith my mates have got in me, but like I say,
it really does. It really does. So tell us about Eastleigh. How are you enjoying it there? They're doing well in the National League. Could make a surge for the promotion spots, couldn't you? Playoffs.
Yeah. So it's a tough league, if I'm honest. You know, so I've been in it now for 4 years with Eastleigh, and you know, the higher you go up, you have teams at the top, teams at the bottom, for a reason. Really, within the National League, it's just every game is the same. You know, it's more about the consistency. You know, some teams are consistent throughout, some teams aren't. And it's just, you know, it doesn't matter where you go, whether you're home or away. It's the same type of game. It's just that consistency. It's a real tough league to get out of, if I'm honest. You know, I had a year where we got into the playoffs, and then we've had a year where we were kind of like looking over our shoulders, which, you know, so it doesn't really surprise me with certain teams being up there or down the bottom. But for us this year, we've not done too bad, but I still think you know, we need to kind of be a bit better. Take yesterday, for instance, you know, you've gone to Kings in a third from bottom, we lose 2-1 after being 1-0 up. So it kind of says everything you need to know about us this year, really. But like I say, hopefully, and I'm quite confident that, you know, we've got a good bunch of players. Again, some of our lads, I think, will probably step on and go to higher levels, and just hopefully, you know, we can stay strong and put a good run to the end of the season, and hopefully end up in them playoff spots.
You've been moving sort of like more defensive as your years advance. So we take it you're not going to end up in goal. So what's your thought processes around the future? Have you thought about, you've played for some brilliant managers. Have you thought about management or coaching, or what's your thoughts?
Yeah, if I was going to say to you, I wouldn't fancy management or coaching, I'd be lying, because it's one of them things that, you know, if I don't have a go at it, I don't think that, you know, it'd be something I really regret later on in life. So it's something that I certainly would entertain. But, you know, within football, I think it's not kind of if you want to do it, it's more about getting the opportunity. It's like you say, I've been lucky enough to play under some great managers and for some great clubs. But like I say, for me, the key thing for me is trying to find out what I want to do. I'd like to ideally stay within football. Not sure what capacity, but it could be, as well. You got to have a plan B, because, like I say, it's more about getting the opportunity. There's so many. Well, every player you speak to, a lot of them would like to stay in football and do something, but like I say, there's so many people wanting to do it. The opportunities are so. I need to know someone, basically, I think, to try and give you almost a leg up and out. You get that opportunity. I think it's the best way of putting it.
Well, it's been brilliant talking with you, Danny. Thanks so much for giving us an hour of your time today, and all the best for the future. I think every Bournemouth fan will wish you well at Eastleigh, and we'll keep an eye on those results and hopefully get you in the playoffs and get you back in the Football League.
Thank you very much. It's been nice speaking to you both, and I say, just want to wish Bournemouth the best for the rest of the season as well.
Cheers, Danny. Cheers, Neil.
Danny. Cheers, Jeff. Thanks a lot, Danny. Brilliant.
No problem, anytime. Take care.
That was a really good chat there. Lots of interesting stuff, Neil.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you want to have an era where there's a lot to talk about, because obviously we've had the worst of times and the best of times, and he sandwiched the two, didn't he? He straddled the two, rather. So it's great, because it's easy to forget how bad things were, and perhaps in a few years it'll be easy to forget how good things were. And obviously Danny straddled both eras, so great to hear from him. Really good.
And thanks for your time today, Neil. Really appreciate you coming on. And
no, it was a pleasure.
Hopefully we're done in time for Line of Duty, everybody. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And we'll see you on Back of the Net in the very near future for more interviews. Enjoy your evenings.